Restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome back to Illinois Rising. I'm Pat Hughes of the Illinois Opportunity Project. Joining me on this program is Joe Kaiser, is the producer of the show. Joining me as co-host. Dan's taking the afternoon off. Joe, moving on from politics onto policy. So, as you know, you're a recent college grad, Marquette University, where I also went. Great university. And that's obviously a private school. They have their own tuition and scholarship structure and everything else. But what I want to talk about today is sort of the public schools and namely Illinois' state universities and how hard it is to afford them compared to other state universities. So I've got as listeners know, and you know, I've got a daughter who's a senior, and she's applied to and visited both public and private universities outside of Illinois. And, you know, when you go to these other universities like North Carolina or Georgia or Alabama, like in-state people pay almost nothing. It's like 10 grand. And they make it really hard. For example, North Carolina makes it really hard from someone from out of state to even get in. And if they get in, you've got to be really, really smart. Your scores have to be terrific. And then they charge you an arm and a leg to go there. And sort of the out-of-state subsidizes the in-state. Michigan is like this, right? And so you can go to a good state university for a reasonable amount of money, $10,000, $12,000 a year. In Illinois, doesn't work that way.
No, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign has the highest tuition of public schools for undergrads in the country. And Northern Illinois University, Illinois State University, UIC, SIU, these are all schools within the top 10 in the country, according to data from Higher Education Tribune that came out this week. And even like a school like Chicago State, which is struggling financially, is pretty expensive relative to the rest of the country. And what people need to know about this, it's not just high tuition because they're putting out a great product. I mean, other public schools throughout the country are doing the same thing. The reason the tuition is so high is administrative bloat, high pension costs, and this has just risen over time. And Illinois is having a really hard time retaining college students, keeping high school grads in state to go to college because it's so expensive. And then once they leave to go out of state for school, you know, where the jobs are in those states and the other states to go to. If you go to IU in Indiana, there's a good chance you're going to get a job in Indiana and Wisconsin. There's a good chance you're going to get a job in Wisconsin. And that's a real problem for the state moving forward.
No question. So when I was in high school, and this is, you know, you're going back 30 years into the late 1980s, and you know, I went to Marquette, but you know, going to the University of Illinois, getting into their business school, getting into one of their engineering programs, that was the golden ticket, because you could go, for example, I had a buddy who's an aerospace engineer. You could go down to Illinois and have MIT quality education and sort of reputation in the engineering department, but only pay $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 a year. Those days are over, right? So now, as a father of three kids, one who's leaving the state to go to college, regardless of where she goes, there's no advantage to it, right? It costs me just as much to send her to U of I as it does to these other schools. The other schools are going to give her a scholarship opportunity. She can go out and see the rest of the world as opposed to central Illinois. Her opportunity to get jobs in different parts of the country opens up. And so many parents, and I know because I've got a bunch of them that are friends of mine, are making the decision to leave the state, not go to U of I or Northern or any of these other schools, and go to the neighboring schools. So many more: Iowa, Indiana, Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, and then, like my daughter, places like Georgia and Alabama and Michigan. So this can't persist, but it will persist, because what our administrators care about, what our politicians care about, is the high cost of pensions, making sure public sector union employees, and including people in the university system, are paid and represented, driving tuition costs up, not financing public education from the state like we should. So all the burden goes to the person who has to pay the tuition, the children, and the parents of the children.
And when these students go across the country and leave Illinois and maybe don't come back, that separates families. Now you have your kids in a different state, and it's just it's a sad thing, and it's one of the most important things that the state needs to get together is solving this out-migration crisis. I think people tend to think people leaving Illinois are older or seniors retiring, but millennials were actually the largest group to flee the state from 2011 to 2014, with a net loss of 81,000 of them. So that's people 18 to 34. That's a huge problem, because that puts the future of the state in jeopardy when no one's coming. I mean, you see these downstate communities that can't attract or retain young people. It's starting to become the whole state where the future is leaving for better opportunity.
The future is leaving for better opportunity. You heard it here first.